So this morning, I have the absolute honor and pleasure of introducing a leader in our region who, throughout our Pacific neighborhood and beyond the shores of Samoa, many look up to and are certainly inspired by. In Papua New Guinea, where we are currently in the motions of an election year, in and amongst many challenges, including the new wave of the pandemic, it's the hope of many, particularly those who are agents of positive change, to have institutions of governance led with a deep sense of the well-being for all and guided by justice, honor, and integrity. And from our part of the Pacific neighborhood, visibility of leadership formally held by an elected female candidate is an inspiring milestone, one that hopefully becomes a more normalized outcome in our region in the years to come. So now allow me to introduce our keynote speaker. She is the leader of the Fa'atuatua Ile Atua Samoa or TASI, or the FAST Party. She is the first woman to hold the offices of Cabinet Minister, Deputy Prime Minister, and currently Prime Minister in Samoa. Through her esteemed family lineage, she is the High Chieftainess or Matai of the Lotofaga. In Samoa's new cabinet, she's assumed the ministerial portfolios of foreign affairs and natural resources and environment. In 1985, she was first elected to the Legislative Assembly of Samoa, representing the constituency of Lotofaga. And notably, she has been re-elected in every election since, and is one of the longest serving members of parliament, a true testament to the efficacy of her contributions and leadership. In 1991, she was appointed the Minister of Education, becoming Samoa's first female cabinet minister, and she held that position until 2006, when she was appointed as Minister of Women, Community and Social Development. From 2011 to 2016, she has served as the Minister of Justice. And also in 2016, she was elected Deputy Leader of the Human Rights Protection Party and appointed Minister of Natural Resources and Environment. She was also at that time sworn in as Samoa's first female Deputy Prime Minister. As we can see, she is highly, highly qualified, deeply experienced, and has worked tirelessly over decades in service to her people. And it gives me great pleasure to warmly welcome and hand the floor to the Prime Minister of Samoa, the Honorable Fiamē Naomi Mataʻafa. Welcome.
Thank you very much, Sa, for that very generous introduction. Talofa and greetings from Samoa to the chair, Dr. Ian Watt, and members of the board of the International Center for Democratic Partnerships, to the CEO, Simone Pensko, as well as the ICDP ambassadors and strategic advisors, Tina Briggs, who are our hosts for this important event. Greetings also to the Pacific Connect community in Australia, as well as in the 8 Pacific hubs, and to colleagues and friends. I am delighted to have the opportunity to address you during this ideas exchange and offer you the highest compliments of my government and people. The Pacific Ocean has long been a destination for mariners, navigators, and explorers. It has also been a theater of activity in 2 world wars, followed by a testing place for nuclear weapons, followed by a natural catchment for refuse and waste from distant shores. Yet in its vastness, the Pacific Ocean still remains a magical place where beautiful isles, sunshine, glistening sea, and welcoming locals tempt holidaymakers from around the world. With rising sea levels, some of those same isles are threatened with desolation. Right now in the Pacific, we find ourselves at a crossroads where all our expectations of the future have been altered by the unimaginable. We are faced with a global pandemic of epic proportions, a growing body of intelligence of how quickly the degradation of our physical and perhaps even our social environment is occurring. The role of technology and social media as a platform for extremism, hate speech, and the diminution of mutual respect, decency, and grace, the drop in economic fortunes for many, and the loss of opportunities for others. The key to Pacific survival lies in its representation at the tables where decisions are made about the region in all geopolitical spheres. This includes environment, but also health, defense, security, in its expanded definition in the Boer Declaration, economic development, financial growth and stability, social development, and gender equity. The Pacific survival relies, therefore, on the unity of all its parts. Samoa has recently come through a period of political instability and uncertainty, eased only through the strength of its constitution, its democratic traditions, and an independent judiciary upholding the rule of law. I believe that in a recent summit in June of this year, which was jointly hosted by Global Access Partners, OECD, and ICDP, one of our most eminent diplomats and a former judge of the International Criminal Court, Tuiloma Neroni Slade, proposed that the path ahead of the challenges faced by the world, but particularly this region, is for the Pacific to develop a stronger international voice, to build a more resilient region through greater cooperation and unity, driven by a strong ethical leadership, and of course, underpinned by democratic governments, independent judiciaries, and the rule of law. My government is committed to such a path and believe that until and unless the leaders of Pacific nations engage with and are engaged by developed countries about the range of issues which often disproportionately affect small Pacific island states, the most serious of which is climate change, then the discussions which take place about us will simply be such, based on assumptions without any reality or depth, and inevitably producing inadequate solutions of the same ilk. Continuing to treat the Pacific simply as ever needy yet compliant recipients belies the necessary and critical contribution which we have to make to a worldview which are formed by our histories and cultures, and plainly, because we live here. Those are aspects which will define the success or otherwise of what is being proposed. These aspects too will enrich and enhance the quality of the discussion as well as the decision-making. In that regard, I acknowledge the incredible work which has been taken by our hosts, the ICDP, through its Pacific Connect program, funded by the Government of Australia. At last, we have a program which actually recognizes the skills, innovation, and giftedness of Pacific people across all fields, from creative and visual arts and crafts, music, commerce and business, such as aquaculture, digital technology, academia, freight movement, and storytelling then connects them with Australian partners with particular and demonstrated expertise to produce a unique and collaborative product, outcome, or process. Pacific innovation and ideas are honored. Australian innovation and ideas are honored. Together, they have been transformative. Most importantly, the Pacific Connect program allows business and activities to move to self-sufficiency at home and on island, These benefit our communities as well as the Australian partners and their communities. In that regard, I look forward to Za Agabe Granfa and Michael Pilbro's panel roundtable session later today on the current projects which are in train. This is the moment also to celebrate their success, as well as the sheer gutsiness of ICDP, which has allowed them to develop their Pacific Connect program in ways that have not followed the usual development aid path of reliance, not resilience. I'm sure this has been enhanced by the exceptional level of commercial, academic, and public management skills of the members of the ICDP board and its CEO, strategic advisors, and staff. ICDP have clearly recognized and understood that Pacific countries and people wish to participate in their own future, not as simpering supplicants or with cap in hand, ready to do the donors every bidding, but as full partners, able to contribute their knowledge, their cultures, and their understanding of their context to the decisions being made. As such, they are able to articulate why some options might be inappropriate or just plain wrong for them. We have a saying, Yatata Lali Lapua, which literally means that it's time for the big drums to beat, and that when a problem is weighty and difficult, it is time for the experienced chiefs and orators to convene and make decisions. We are at such a juncture in the Pacific, when all its seasoned, mighty, and experienced leaders are heeding the call of the Lali for unity and collective counsel to address the challenges of our times, which include climate change, COVID-19, regional security, economic stability, and human rights, in order that the place we live in remains our home and paradise to the restless world. Thank you again to the board and staff of ICDP for your kind invitation to address this exciting and innovative exchange. And I wish you well for the sessions ahead. Soifua, Maia Manuia.